welcome back to episode 4 of the Bullpen podcast. No interview today. Just kind of a short week here with Thanksgiving happening. I'm back home, so I kind of have a different background here. I don't have my usual setup, but how's everybody doing? You guys excited for Thanksgiving?
Yeah, go Cubs, go Bears.
I'm good, Gavin, and I know you said, no interview this week, but still should be a great episode. We've got Josh Fields joining us, and, maybe I'm stealing your thunder here, but he's going to talk some of the JUCO stuff that's going on in the landscape and some former Illinois high school products that have been killing it, or at least, making a name for themselves at that next level this fall. And I know we'll get going down that road a little bit here in a sec, Gavin, but no, everything's good, and I think it should be a great episode. And we'll continue to try to bring on, more and more interviews here as we go. But this week, figured we'd talk some JUCO stuff. We're kind of rolling out some top prospect lists and stuff like that. So felt like it would be a good week to do so. But what else is going on in the landscape?
Yeah, I mean, aside from baseball and what we've got going on, how about the Bears this weekend? I thought that was a fun game to watch, and I mean they ended up losing, which kind of stunk, but at least Caleb looked good.
Yeah, I'm in a tough spot right now with the Bears and what to say. Obviously, big Bears fan, big Chicago fan. It's just a tough go right now being a Chicago sports fan. But still love the Bears. I'll always back them. Maybe there needs to be some things that change here in the future. But I love Caleb. I love some of the pieces they've got going. I still love the receiving core. I'm no football expert, but I do get into it. And we've got my 5-year-old here at the house. He's fully hooked. So he's getting indoctrinated or whatever you say there. He's learning quickly what it's like to be a Bears fan. It can you can grow some tough skin having to watch those games every Sunday. So yeah, he's getting used to it at an early age.
Yeah, that's something I've kind of gotten used to as the years have gone on, just getting used to maybe next year's seasons. So, but no,
Gotta
kind of
have
moving on
faith,
here.
right, Gav? Gotta have
Yeah,
faith.
you
The
always
the,
you
the
always
Cubs
gotta
did
have
it
faith.
back in 2016 somehow, so you
Yeah,
never know.
yeah, but moving on here to some of the commitments around the state. So this week we're going to kind of talk about some of the future games kids that committed since the future games ended. We've had 13 Illinois players commit to Division I schools. We've had 2 players go to the Big Ten, and Dylan Kassab and Patty Roth. Kassab's going to Indiana, and Roth is going to Michigan State. We've had 3 SEC commits. Cam Jenkins is going to Missouri. Nolan Ramley is going to Kentucky. Landon Tomey is going to Tennessee. We've had 3 ACC commits. Connor Ellenteni is going to Notre Dame. Michael Pettit's going to Notre Dame. And Ian Tosi is going to Miami. We've had 1 Big 12 commit, and Jory Crocker going to Arizona. We've had 2 Missouri Valley commits, and RJ Duncan going to Illinois State, and Max Hyman going to Illinois Chicago. We've had 1 MAC commit with Caden Schatz going to NIU. And then we've had 1 Big East commit with Brody Landgraf going to Creighton. So I don't know if you guys have any takeaways or any thoughts right there off the top from some of these guys and some of those commitments so far from Team Illinois.
I think and Drew, you can correct me if I'm wrong here, but like this is maybe the most commits we've had in like this amount of time since the future games in a little while. And I think it's a direct reflection of the recruiting rule. And I mean, we kind of knew going into it like it was going to elevate the future games, and I think we're kind of seeing that come to fruition here. Like we get the better uncommitted kids because they can't commit early, and they come off the board quick. So kind of cool to see it happen in real time. But yeah, I think like we've said in the past, this was one of our favorite teams, just like the kids in general. So it's really cool to see them all, get off the board quick and get rewarded for their hard work and how good they are.
Yeah, and I think Tyler might want to speak up here too, but I couldn't agree more there with that, Peter. Like, I thought our talent was very good on the team. Just overall across the board, I thought we had a lot of talented prospects. And I do agree that with the new recruiting rule, I think what you're going to see is these bigger programs, they are going to attack a couple guys that they like in those classes and get on them as early as they can, when they can. So those 26s, pinpointing the guys that they really want to attack and try to get those early commits out of a few guys. they're not loading up their classes like they were in the past because they need to now keep some space open for transfer portal, for JUCO guys, but then also just with the roster limits that they're going to have coming down. With everything that we're hearing with the new rules and the roster limits, their rosters just aren't going to be as big. So their recruiting classes are going to have to be smaller. And I just think high school recruiting classes in general for almost every college out there now is nowhere near as big as it was. And what I also love about these commitments are I feel like they're great fits. I feel like every guy that's committed to where they've committed, whether it's a Landon Tomey committed to Tennessee, like I really think he can hit in the SEC. Connor Alenteni and Michael Pettit both going to Notre Dame. Like you love to see Notre Dame's attacking arms early in that class, it seems like. There were a couple of other like really cool commits I saw, Gavin, and I don't know, like for me, RJ Duncan going to ISU, going to Illinois State, I think is really, really cool. Like his dad was a legend there. Career home run record leader at Illinois State. And Gavin, I know you're on top of that. So if that is incorrect, if it was single season or something, feel free to correct me. But for him following in his dad's footsteps, I love to see that. And then one school that's kind of been making waves here in the last week or two is UIC. They got Max Heineman from the Future Games team. One guy they just got over the weekend was Dominic Batista. He was a guy we invited to the Future Games, was unable to make it, but we thought he was talented and ends up committing there. So no, Gav, I love to see that UIC is attacking homegrown talent. They're going after some 26s. They're getting some guys that stay local, stay home. And you love to see the Illinois guys fly off the board. It means we're doing our job, getting the right guys down there to Lake Point in front of these coaches and giving these guys the opportunity that they've earned and deserved. So those are just some takeaways that I've seen from this team.
No, and I was gonna speak exactly on the fits of these commits. I think that's the coolest thing. You touched on RJ Duncan. That's definitely a cool one to see, but also just kind of the diversity of these commitments. Everything's kind of spread out. It's not like 8 of our 13 guys are all going to a Big Ten school. Everything's kind of spread out across the country, which is just really cool to see from a state like Illinois, just nestled in the Midwest.
Your point with Jory Crocker going to Arizona and with Ian Tosi going to Miami, to me that just speaks that when we go to the Future Games, when Team Illinois plays, they need to be seen by everybody in the country. From the West Coast schools to the East Coast schools to the SEC schools to the Big Ten, obviously, that's our hub here in the Midwest. Now the Big Ten's growing, and you got UCLA and some other schools in the mix now, but. No, I agree, and I do think it's a team that when we put it together, you want some guys that, maybe are better fits for some Midwest schools, maybe not even Power 4 schools, but then you also want to have those guys that draw in every school that comes to the event, says, hey, I have to go see Team Illinois because I don't want to miss a guy. So that I love to see that fires me up. And Pete, I don't know if you were going to say something there, if I stole your thunder.
No, it's like it's good to see them committing to schools that are good fits because it means that like they're giving these schools a chance, and it's not like maybe back in the day they would have held out for something better. I mean, we've seen that play out before, and it's kind of because this whole new recruiting landscape with the portal and all that stuff. So, I mean, something good that might come out of it is that these kids actually, they don't hold out for something that might not be the most realistic for them. And I'm not saying the Future Games guys, I'm saying any level, any kid in the state. Like, now they're more maybe willing to give other schools a chance, and maybe they'll actually see, like, oh, there's good baseball at this level too, and, like, I can play here early, and it would have been, I could have gone here but sat for 2 or 3 years, and, like, what's the point of that? So hopefully, something good comes from all this, and then maybe when they fix the portal and fix that whole mess, that kids still realize, like, oh, yeah, like, I can play anywhere, and still get found if I want to play at the next level. So yeah, I don't know.
And I think where that really is being noticed from where I sit is the guys from the Illinois State Games. Your Future Game guys, like those guys that are still at the top of the class, that are the top 1% in the state, they're going to, for the most part, get a pick of their litter or at least have some options of some really, really quality schools. But that's few and far between in today's day and age with what's going on. So those guys at the Illinois State Games that the top end guys could go to a place like Arizona. I mean, Jory Crocker was at the Illinois State games after the future games. But then if you look at the diversity of the commits, and I really think right now, like the key to being a high school prospect and wanting to play in college, it is all about the fit. We always used to talk about, don't pay attention to the Roman numeral after division, and I don't think it's ever been more true, because really just getting into college baseball and playing, whether it's at that NAIA, at that D3, at that JUCO level, it's all about developing, continuing to develop, and then continuing to play to get better and to put numbers up, to put stats up. Because let's say you go to, Tyler Defaball goes to Wittenberg or whatever it may be, and he puts up numbers there. And one of his best buddies in D3 his senior year was their ace. And then in today's day and age, what does that guy do? Well, he's a grad transfer, and he goes to a Sun Belt program that's one of the top programs in the Sun Belt, and he gets quality innings out of the pen in the Sun Belt. Something that never would have happened really back in the day, maybe 10 years ago when I started this. It would have certainly been a lot more rare than it's become now. So to me, it's all about, man, find where you're going to be happy, where academically you're going to put yourself in a good position to start your college career. You're going to play for a coach that you want to play for that maybe has connections, that's going to develop you, and see what happens. And if you put up huge numbers, maybe you can see what's out there. I'm not saying that's how everybody should do it, because I'm a big believer in, like, man, find that fit for you, stay 4 years, develop unbelievable relationships, and become familiar with that program, and you're representing something bigger than yourself at that university, at that college, at that junior college, whatever it may be. But you have that option now. I mean, it's fact. Like, as a player, I think all of the power now is kind of turned over to the player, which they never really had as much power as they have now. So it's still really unique what's going on in college baseball, and what may still be changing. Like, what's true today may not be true at the start of the year. But from everything that we know and that we have seen with commitments, and then from guys in the college landscape and what they're doing and where they're going, those are just some things I'm seeing. Whether it's right or wrong, I think that is what's happening. We're seeing guys that are still committed, never decommit while they're in high school, and then commit to a different university. And say what you want to say, football's been doing that for a long time. And it's starting to trickle over into baseball. So that's maybe a long-winded thing going into commitments there, Gavin, but I do think it's important. And, all these players that are coming to prep baseball events, and whether they're coming to tournaments or showcases, they're coming because they want to play college baseball, and they're trying to improve their options, and they're trying to get seen. They're trying to get more visibility, and hopefully using us in a way to do that. And it's just something that they should all know, parents, players, and I think it should hopefully help.
Yeah, and I think another thing cool to note, just from the future games as a whole, and not just with Illinois, there have been over 225 future games commitments across that event so far, which is just really cool to see. And I know that the national website has a future games tracker where you can look through and see all of the kids that have committed so far. So that's something really cool to note. But Def, moving on here to baseball news. I know this past weekend, or past week really, there's been some awards throughout the MLB that you want to kind of talk through.
Yeah, thanks, Gavin. But like you said, it's award season, or it was award season in Major League Baseball. So off the top, man, biggest award you can probably receive in Major League Baseball is the MVP award. Not a ton of shock here. For the AL, went to Aaron Judge of the Yankees. For the NL, went to Shohei Ohtani of the Dodgers. But history was made with those two winning MVP. It's the first time ever that for 2 consecutive years, the award choice of the MVP winners was unanimous for both leagues. So not a ton of shock. I mean, those are probably 1 and 2, however you want to splice it. Best players in the league right now. Next, Chris Sale of the Braves and Tarek Skubal of the Tigers both won Cy Young. And then lastly, Paul Skeens of the Pirates and Luis Hill of the Yankees won Rookie of the Year for their respective leagues.
Did you guys happen to see Paul Skeens' celebration for winning that Rookie of the Year?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that was hilarious.
I mean, he's all business, man. He Now he wants an MVP.
Well, it's something that I don't think you see very often in today's day and age is somebody react that way. And um, I almost was refreshed by it. Like he, yes, he should be appreciative of the award, and it should mean a ton. It's still a huge honor, but you know where his goals are set. You know where his sights are set, and he's not satisfied, and he's not in it for some, a lower level award. Just kind of. And I say that like I'm not the rookie of the year is an incredible award, and when he looks back on that in 40 years, it's going to mean a ton to him. But right now, he's on a mission, and you can just tell. And that fired me up seeing that because he didn't really know how to react. And I don't know. I think, man, if there's a guy to bet on, that's a guy right there because with that mentality, that makeup, and then that kind of talent, like it is no surprise why he's the next great thing coming in the game of baseball.
Well, honestly, just to go back to last week's conversation with Owen Murphy, I mean, a lot of similarities there, especially, when Owen's talking about all I care about is a W. I think Skeens is the exact same way. I think if you asked him right now, would he rather have a Rookie of the Year award or if the Pirates would have made the postseason, he'd take the postseason, man. Like, and it reminds me a lot of just our conversation with Owen last week, just kind of how those high end guys are wired. So, no, I thought that was the coolest thing too.
That's a great callback there to Owen because that is what it takes to reach those highest levels. Is you need the talent, of course you need the talent, but it is that makeup, it is that drive, it is that motor, it is that just ultimate competitiveness and the competitiveness to not be worried about awards and things that really don't matter. It's about getting the W. It's about getting to the postseason. It's about winning the Cy Young. And every time I'm on the mound, I'm going to dominate. And that's just, I don't know. I cracked up. I kind of laughed when I saw it because I was like, yep, that tells me everything I need to know about that guy. Like I'm buying stock on him. So not that you wouldn't have before, but yeah, that was just something I saw from all those awards there at Defaball that had me thinking.
I also thought it was funny. I'm just scrolling through Twitter that night, like all the pictures that come from that. It was like one of them was it was like when your kid hits a ball 5 feet in T-ball and runs to third base, and it's just him staring off in the distance. I was like, yeah, that makes sense.
So you're saying he's gonna get a bunch of memes created from that? Yeah,
There's
that's what
already
it
been a
sounds
lot of
like.
them, yeah.
That's great.
Yeah, well, kind of transitioning over to our JUCO winners from the fall. This is kind of something that we've mentioned in the past that we've wanted to kind of bring up. So we kind of felt like it would be a great opportunity to bring back Josh Fields onto this podcast. He's from Wisconsin, but he's a huge asset that we have for our JUCO coverage throughout the fall. He goes to all of those events in the scout days that we host, and then he's at a ton of the gameplay stuff that we have too, the Puma Classic in Indianapolis. So he's really big into the JUCO coverage. He's got an awesome sheet that he shared with us that has all kind of JUCO information, giving looking into these JUCO guys that you saw this fall. So it was we thought it was a great opportunity to bring him on and talk some JUCO baseball.
Yeah, thanks for having me on. Love to talk JUCO baseball any chance I get, especially these Illinois guys, because the JUCO landscape in Illinois is it's a strong crop, especially this year, especially on the arms.
Yeah, and even Josh, even before you get into this, thought Gavin introduced you perfect, but like I want to add some more color. So in the fall, and this has started maybe 4 years ago or so, like we never ever did anything JUCO. We were strictly focused on high school, and then we started getting into the draft HQ, and we want to be experts on the draft, and we've continued to excel in that area with knowing all the top players across the country in high school, but then also by partnering with D1 Baseball and having guys like David Seifert, Shooter Hunt, our entire staff going out and tracking down these high-level Division I players, we now are able to put together, a very extensive draft list. But then kind of spurning off of that was JUCO baseball just sitting out there. And It's a landscape that a lot of people within our company are very opinionated on, and have a strong, strong feelings for, I guess I should say. And I'm one of them. From coaching JUCO ball before I got into, working at prep baseball, I know that there's a ton of talent out there. I know it is kind of just it's a landscape that you're a little in between, because you've graduated high school, you're playing really good competition, but you're still hungry because you're trying to get that commitment to the 4 year school. Um, so I think it's a really unique, just kind of level in college baseball, and we were not doing anything really to highlight these players. So, like I was kind of starting with, within the last 4 to 5 years, we have started doing JUCO scout days in the fall, doing whatever we can to see these players, and then also scouting that Puma Classic that Gavin mentioned. And that Puma Classic, it spurned, oh man, maybe 15, 20 years ago is when it was created. Rick Odette, who's now down in Florida coaching at one of the top D2s in the country, he was coaching at St. Joseph at the time, in Rensselaer, Indiana, before it shut down. And he created this. So it started with Rick Odette. I want to give him his shout out and his love, because this has been a big deal for a long time when it comes to JUCOs and coaches coming to see players. But since Coach Odette is now in Florida, Rhett Goodmiller, PBRT, they've taken over kind of running this thing, and it's now at Grand Park. And it's a huge event for us. It's a huge event that we cover, that we get a lot of our JUCO, names and lists from. But then on top of that, like, we're running multiple events across the country. I know there's one in Kansas City at Creekside Home Field that you were at. So I'd love to hear about that as well. I know it's not as extensive maybe with the Illinois prospects out there. Um, and then just everything else that we do. I know there was something up at the Rock that you were covering. We're at multiple different JUCOs every single, week of the fall. Basically, that month of September and October is loaded with JUCO stuff. So that is a super long-winded introduction into Josh Fields, but whether I've, said it in the past or not, I just think it's worth noting kind of how this JUCO stuff has come about. Um, we want to give these guys, the same opportunity and the same love as the high school guys, allow them to be seen, put the info out there, and allow these college coaches to gather as much, information on these players, whether it's high school players, junior college players, and then now we're talking pro scouts with all these draft guys. So that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to hit it at all areas, all levels, and I think you guys are going to find out here with all this JUCO stuff and all this knowledge that Josh and our crew has amassed in the fall. We just continue to take it more and more serious.
Yeah, just starting off with Jacob O'Day, obviously, like, he's the Heartland ace. He was we have a ton of history on him throughout the his high school career, and at Heartland he hit the ground running, was their ace right away. This fall he's up to 93 with a swing and miss fastball. Showed 3 pitches there, swing and miss breaking ball as well, and a changeup. Like, he could very well be a starter. He's already committed to Kansas. There was a ton of attention that he had that day at the Puma, just from 4 years, from pro scouts. Like, they were looking for Jacob O'Day. And then there's a bunch of other guys here that want to highlight as well. Like,
Well, and Jacob O'Day's at Heartland, right?
correct.
So Heartland's ace, they've had a long history of having, high-level aces. I remember when I was coaching in the league, they would throw some lefties at us, and definitely high talent. But Jacob O'Day, long time, at Heartland. I think the reason I brought it up, and we've mentioned him in the past, is he is a Bloomington normal guy. He stayed there at home. He didn't get the, maybe the attention he wanted out of high school. And like you said, turned into their ace. Now he's committed to Kansas, kind of like a homegrown product, staying at home, getting into a very legit, program after Heartland. And then while he's at Heartland, having a chance to compete for a World Series as well. So, awesome to hear about Jacob O'Day, because he always was that kind of higher ceiling athlete that we talk about when we talk about rankings and how you manage the floor and the ceiling and where guys are at. He was always a guy that people said more's to come, more's to come, more's to come. And to see that that's what's going on right now, That's what it's all about. And that's what we want to see. We want to see guys succeed, go to the next level and succeed, get to the right spots and put themselves in a good opportunity. So awesome to hear about Jacob O'Day. Who do you got next for us?
So another guy that we have a lot of history on, Addison Worthman, big right corner outfield profile, ton of pop, and I mean he's a sneaky athlete. He's 6'2", 220, 230, and he can move. He can move probably the best I've seen at a guy with that frame. Pete or Drew, I know you guys have seen him extensively throughout like high school, but
Yeah. Well, I mean, you said it. Like he is a physical specimen. And I want to say we were looking at his numbers, and back in 2020, he ran a 6.58 at a PBR Illinois event. That was probably his freshman winter, if I'm thinking of 2020. But for a guy built like that to run like that, and then I know he's got all kinds of raw power. I'm pretty sure he left the yard at Puma or at least hammered a ball. But that's long kind of been his calling card is he can run, he's physical, and he has power. And guys like that, they tend to get a lot of interest. So no, really, really, good to see him because it did sound like his name was getting some buzz after the Puma Classic. So that's really what I have on Addison. He was a Missouri commit out of high school, so he was a high level guy at a younger age. Now he's at Parkland doing his thing, and obviously he's still probably grabbing some attention from some programs.
Yeah, no, I saw him at the Puma. He hit a home run. I don't thinking back. I don't know if I've seen a ball leave the yard that fast in my time scouting. Like it was 15 feet off the ground, out in a hurry. It's just like stupid power from the right side. I mean that the whole all his tools are loud too. And Josh had mentioned it before we got on the pod. Is saying you don't see guys that built like that move like that, and that's kind of what those pro guys are looking for is guys stuff that you can't necessarily teach. Like obviously you can teach stuff as they get into your system, but the unteachable stuff, the standout stuff is a word I'm looking for. The outliers, the outlying tools. Yeah, I mean he's just one of those guys that comes to mind when thinking of a freak athlete.
going into another guy that was basically an outlier. I mean, this guy is kind of on the shelf, working his way back. It's Ethan Storm, who was one of the top JUCO arms in the past 2 years. I mean, he was on the shelf last year, so he's back at Rock Valley now, but was able to watch a couple of bullpens of him as he was rehabbing his way back from Tommy John this past year, and it's a cleaner arm now. This Ethan Storm already had 2 advanced pitches. It was a swing and miss slider with just innate feel for spin. It was upwards of 28 to 3,000 RPMs, and then just a mid-90s fastball with a ton of carry. So this is a guy that just a name to watch for any college, any pro team, but it's certainly a guy that I'm going to be headed out to see very early this spring.
And just from what we knew of him in high school was the body was right, the frame was right, and there was all kinds of arm strength. And then for you to tell me he's spinning it like that should be a high on a lot of people's lists.
Josh, if you don't mind, I got a quick Ethan Storm story really quick. So back in 2022, when myself, you, and Defaball all interned, we were out in Rantoul at a tournament, and he was pitching in the summer. I don't remember who they were playing or anything like that, but I just remember I was on another field. I don't know who was all there and stuff for our staff, but I remember being I went up to the scout tower, and Andy Soroka was up there, who at the time was the person that kind of ran our tournaments in Illinois and Wisconsin before him that came in and started doing that. And Soroka looked down through the window and was like, who is that kid down there? That's not, 79 miles an hour. That's he's humming it. So I go down there and I get a gun on him, and he's 91, 92 maybe touching 93 or something in high school. And I remember, with that being my intern summer, that was, I think, Fields and Def, you guys can both attest, seeing that kind of velo at that time, we were like, holy cow, this is crazy. We don't see that very often. So I remember seeing that and just thinking that was the coolest thing ever when Ethan Storm was throwing low 90s at Rantoul in a summer tournament. And always super curious to see how his progression would continue to go. So it's really cool to see that, Josh, you've seen him continue to take up and get better over there at Rock Valley.
And that kind of came out of nowhere, I think, for like what we knew of Ethan Storm at the time. Like that was a pretty significant jump from the last time we'd seen it. It reminds me a little bit of like how Dominic Panazzo just kind of came out of nowhere at the Rantoul tournament this fall, and then committed to Illinois State like right after, like up to 93 with a super high spin and breaking ball, physical, like just like whoa, okay, we had not seen Dominic Panazzo in maybe 3 years. So anytime those things happen, those always wake you up, and those are those are always positives coming out of a tournament. But yeah, Josh, go ahead and keep this thing flowing.
Yeah, so Jack Scary, Creighton bounced back, but he's going to be probably one of Wabash Valley's, who's one of the top schools in the country. Like they have SEC bats littered throughout their lineup, and guys get drafted out of there. So like he's going to be one of the guys that they rely on this year. But he's tooled up in just about every facet of his game as well. And he was a favorite of Andy Urban's, especially down at the KC JUCO showcase. We were both on that game watching him bases loaded while Jack Scary was walking up to the plate. We both look at each other like we knew what was about to happen. And then he launched a no doubt grand slam early in the at bat.
Well, that's an easy way to get noticed. If you're Jack Scary, just go ahead and hit a grand slam when all the coaches are there watching. Like you can do that. Jack Scary in high school was one of my favorite players. I was a huge fan favorite of his. I thought he would go off to Creighton and have a ton of success. I still am extremely high on him. I think he's going to be a big time performer wherever he goes. But he was a guy that in high school, we had crazy good run times on him. He was a future gamer as an underclassman. He was playing up with some guys because I love the way he plays. One of the most hard-nosed, just high-intent, high-energy guys that I have seen in my last couple of years. Always playing like a mile a minute. We've had him at a 6'4", 860. And what I love about it is he's one of those guys that like won't just flash that speed every once in a while. Like every time he gets down the line, he gets down the line. And you're going to get a good run time on your watch. He's going to put pressure on the defense constantly. He knows how to run the bases. He's athletic enough to play shortstop, center field. He's got arm strength. He's been 91 across the infield. I could go on and on and on about Jack Scary, but I love when I saw the tweet from this fall that he was tearing it up down there at Kansas City. I was fired up. So it was great to hear his name, and that's just a little bit of what I had on him in high school.
Yeah, and then the next guy I wanted to touch on was probably another guy you guys have a lot of history on. It's Juju Thompson or Jaron Thompson. He's now at Parkland. He was at Seminole State last year, and if you're a pro guy and you're like wanting to show somebody how to move, it's probably close, if not what Juju Thompson is. It's fluid. The arm action is silky smooth, and it's pretty low effort. And he had some pro scouts specifically looking to check in on him to get a look at him in the fall. Like, hey, when's Juju Thompson throwing? The fastball was up to 90 at the Puma with just some boring action, and then showed a breaking ball for strikes.
And he was also like Jack Scary, Juju was a future gamer. He was a guy, he was actually, I remember it because he was one of the last guys we invited to the future games. He had never been to an event. I had not seen him throw in the spring. Like, I don't even know if he was on varsity at the time. And he was pitching up at Milkmen at the Rock. And we had gotten wind that it was a good arm. So I remember walking down and watching him. And within the first 2 to 3 pitches, knew he was a future gamer. Kind of like what you were talking about, Josh, just the way the arm flowed. I think he might have been like 87 at the time, but it was like the way the fastball came out, and then he showed me a breaking ball for a strike. I love the way he moved. I thought there was so much more in there. And since then, he's added a lot of physicality. From the time he was invited to the future games to where he is now. And if you ever see his dad walking around, like his dad clearly gets after it, really, really muscular. And you hope that kind of work ethic and that kind of stuff like feeds on down to the son. So the last time I saw Juju, he had added a lot of that strength, a lot of that quality, just cut up muscle. So good to hear good things on Juju. And one of our favorites is coming next on this list, Peter, if you want to get in there. I know we have mentioned him in the past, but might as well bring him up again. Give him as much love as we can. He deserves it.
Yeah, no, Seth Simpson, we love Seth. One of the hardest workers I've ever been around, not just like with whatever he does, like baseball, working for us, like scouting games for me. Like the kid just grinds and he loves it. He just loves working hard, it seems like. I remember the first time I saw him was at Illinois State. It was Springfield versus U High. U High was one of the top teams in the state that year, and Seth was pitching like he was a sophomore, so it was like future game watch type kid, mid 80s, like 85, could really spin a slider, but the compete factor was what stood out to me. And just to see the way he's progressed, like now I saw him at the Puma, he was up to 92 with a really good slider, really good changeup, and just the compete and the confidence and the moxie he has. Yeah, there's just a lot of intangibles there that really make me like Seth, other than the fact that he's a low 90s arm as a freshman. But yeah, I would not be shocked in the slightest. Me and Josh have a little bet, actually, on if he's going to be 95 or not this spring, but we will see. We'll see what happens. I'm rooting for him for sure, though.
I hope he hits that. And what a lot of people may not know about Seth was he was a long-time two-way guy. He was a catcher for a long time and could really
he was
throw
hitting,
it from
Drew.
behind
Sorry,
the
he was
plate.
hitting at the Puma.
Yeah,
he looked
okay.
pretty good, but
So
yeah.
he's a two-way guy at Lincoln Land still, because I'm not sure if we mentioned he is at Lincoln Land in the MWAC there in the same conference with Parkland, Heartland, ICC, Danville, John Wood. You've got Spoon River in there, Lewis and Clark, Vincennes. Forgive me if I'm missing somebody. But really, really quality league. It's the D2 JUCO there in Illinois. You got the MWAC is the D2 JUCO, and then you've got the GRAC is the D1. And most of those D1 JUCOs are going to be more in the southern part of the state, and the MWAC really kind of litters the central part of the state. So just for anybody out there kind of wondering the JUCO landscape. And then you've got all the Chicagoland junior colleges with the Tritons, the South Suburbans, Elgins, McHenry, all those. And they're in, I want to say Region 4 is what they're a part of. So just a little more info on the JUCO landscape here in Illinois. And then I'm looking at your list, and it looks like, are those three outfielders in a row that are all kind of noteworthy guys you want to talk about?
Yeah, I kind of queued it up that way. I just wanted to talk all three outfielders right here.
Perfect.
Austin Wiegand, right away, left center fielder from, I believe it's from your part of the woods, Gavin. But he was
Eureka.
He's a Eureka boy originally.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember when Gavin first started, he went over to see Eureka, saw Wiegand, and I might be stealing some of his thunder, but home of Ben Zobrist, just, another Central Illinois town. You never know what's going to come out of there, and you love it.
Yeah, Wiegand, Northern Illinois commit, recent commit. It's a really good get for them. I think he's going to be able to compete for at-bats right away. I mean, this guy was a all-region performer in Region 4 at Carl Sandburg last year. Now he's at John A, and he's fitting in right away at the top of their lineup. And, I mean, he's one of my picks that clicked for John A this upcoming spring. So another outfield bat is, funny enough, another guy from Gavin Smith's area, Crew Bond. I got to see him last year against Heartland and again this season at the Puma. And Krubon just hits, and it's a corner out. It's like a right field profile with a ton of arm strength that he's able to just really control the run game and just throw out runners at home, throw out runners at any base. So
No, what I have there, Josh, with Crew Bond, and going back to a guy we were talking about, Jack Scary, and one of the biggest things I had on Jack Scary out of high school was his bat-to-ball skills. It was highly advanced, and one of the better guys in the state that I would watch. There was minimal swing and miss, and even the way the bat enters the zone, it's really flat. It's in the zone a long time, and Crew Bond reminds me of like the same way. I feel like his bat's in the zone a long time. He's a compact build, and so is Scary, so they stay compact. And Bond, he's got that flat path. At least he did in high school, where he had the flat path and he would really backspin baseballs. So I loved just not only the way both of those guys played, but their hit tool, the way their hit tool worked, and then their approach as well. Were just two things with those guys that really stood out. What do you got on Trey Swiderski here? It looks like he's that third outfielder that we were going to mention.
Yeah, Trey's another returning bat that is he's one of the top mid bats in the Midwest, JUCO wise. Like, it's double-digit home runs that you can pencil in the middle of your order, to be honest. The ceiling is ultimately going to be determined by how much he can mitigate the swing and miss in the swing, but this is a guy that is he looks like a pro. He's got tools littered throughout his profile, and and he was a performer last year. It's, like I said, double-digit home runs, double-digit doubles, tons of RBIs.
And he was a Joliet Catholic product, played varsity for a long time at JCA. Very similar to what you kind of explained he is now is what he was in high school. He had some of the top bat speed and just pull side power in the state. And yeah, to me, it was always just kind of an approach thing. If his approach was right, like, look out, because every swing he takes, it's kind of a hold your breath swing. Had big arm strength in the outfield. He reminds me a lot of a guy named Dakota Katowski, who came through Providence Catholic. Really, really physical corner outfield type guy with just crazy amounts of juice. And if a pitcher makes a mistake, look out. So that's really good to hear. I did not know he went off like that last year at John A. Logan. So that's good for Trey. He was a guy we were long familiar with in high school. And it looks like you're going to get into some infielders here, and that fires me up, like being an infield guy back in the day. And then just looking at some of these names. Man, I love highly talented guys out of high school. Clearly now all three of them are at JUCOs. Who do you want to start with?
So yeah, there's three guys I lined up here. Eddie Lettamenti, big-time energy guy, right-handed bat for Lakeland College. Another guy that we saw at the Puma, he was a big-time energy guy for Lakeland at the top of their lineup. Hit a moonshot home run for them, and it's just going to be one of their top bats for them this spring. Another guy that we wanted to highlight here is Jaden Correa. He was a standout. He was the everyday shortstop for John A. Another guy we have history on here inside the company. It's a shortstop, and with bat to ball skills that, we're going to be monitoring that tool, the hit tool, throughout the spring, and I know a lot of other schools are as well. But it's an athlete that can really play shortstop.
Well, and I think you just say shortstop, and everybody thinks they're a shortstop, right? Like, coming up, the best player plays shortstop. The best athlete plays shortstop at the younger ages, even getting into high school. But when you get to college, it is very, very hard to play shortstop, to actually be a shortstop. It takes range, it takes hands, it takes arm strength, it takes feel. There's a lot of attributes that you got to kind of check off there to be a shortstop. So when you say that Jaden Correa's got that, the tools to play short, that automatically just elevates a prospect to a higher level. Because really, almost all shortstops are guys that you could look at, and if you needed a shortstop to go play third or go play second or go play center or go play first, they should be able to transition a lot easier than anybody else on the diamond. So I love to hear that about Jaden, because, man, when I saw him play in high school, I kind of thought the same thing. Like, had the actions, had the fluidity, had the ease in the arm. Like, it didn't take a lot to get it across the diamond. It was all day arm strength. Could really turn over the double play as well. And then, like, Correa, just watching him at De La Salle in high school playing next to Kenny Perez at third base, like, you're watching a freaking power four left side of the infield at high school, and you're watching De La Salle play in high school. That was always fun to me, like going and watching them play, watching two guys. And I'm wishing Kenny the best at Western Illinois, because, man, I was a big fan of him as well. So that's what I had on Jaden. And I guess Jaden, too, like Eddie Letamendi, they were both pro case guys. Like, we invited both of those guys. They both came to the pro case in the winter a few years back. But like that's what we thought of both of those guys. Correa was a future gamer back in the day as well. So these are like highly talented guys that we're talking about that now are finding themselves at junior college, making a name for themselves, which they should. They're extremely talented prospects. Who's this? You got two commits here to finish it off. We've got history on both of them. Where do you want to start?
Michael Farina. He's a middle infielder for Southeastern, which is another top program. Just over the border in Iowa. They made it to the World Series this past year, and he was a big part of that. And this fall, he showed up and showed out every time we saw him. I saw him both times in the Puma and in Kansas City, and there were schools there for him, and ended up being committed to Illinois. They saw him leave the yard there in Kansas City, so this guy is going to be able to hit from the right side. There's still a ton of projection in him. He's still all skin and bone.
Well, I was going to ask because we saw Farina a lot in high school. Mundelein product, and I remember watching him at state, in the state finals, and Mundelein was battling. And I just remember thinking, the first thing that strikes me with Michael Farina was ball player. The guy was a baseball player, did everything well, wasn't the ultra flashy guy, but just got the job done, hit at the top of their order. But I was going to ask about the frame because he always was kind of built more like me, which is not exactly what you're looking for. You're looking for a lot more muscle. And I know in my head, it was, man, if he could add 20 pounds, like he's going to turn himself into a real player, a real prospect. Because along with the ball player that he struck me with, like he was a winner. Like there was something about him that oozed winner on the field. Maybe it was the way he led. Maybe it was the way he just kind of, you could see like his teammates kind of how they reacted around him or whatever it may be. But Illinois getting Michael Farina out of Southeastern, I love to see that. Keeping some homegrown boys in the state. And then the last guy here. Savion Flowers, another pro case guy, another guy we are long familiar with. All kinds of exciting stuff there with Savion. What did we see this fall?
So, talking to our guys down in Texas, Savion was probably one of the top freshmen around in that state. He's at Cisco down there, and he's going to be
originally a Kenwood product.
Yeah, originally committed to Eastern Kentucky as well, but he was he's going to be a one and done guy. He committed to Kansas recently, and just the ceiling is tremendous with Savion. Like Drew mentioned, he was a pro case guy, and we think the world of him. Like we think that there's a high ceiling. Obviously, like there's a Power 5 like talent there.
You're not wrong. Swings a left-handed bat. I don't know where they had him playing at Cisco. Played some first base, played some outfield in high school. Like, to me, if he could ever profile in right or left field, like, it would tremendously help his profile. And just, kind of allow him some more flexibility there rather than just having to play first or DH or something like that. But there was big-time pull-side power. Like, I was just talking about De La Salle. I saw them play Kenwood. I saw Savion go yard to right field. There's all kinds of talent on that field as well when I went and saw Kenwood play De La Salle a few years ago. But Savion was also always just a great guy. Like, just loved having him at events, was no stranger. And, man, if there's one guy that can really fill out the uniform, like, it's Savion. And it's only going to get better. Like, he looks the part in a uniform. And, shoot, some of that's half the battle. So good for Savion. Is there any other JUCO guys that we want to touch on here? I know these are just some of the biggest winners from the fall that were Illinois high school products. Like, we went around to a ton of these JUCOs. I was talking about Lincoln Trail earlier before we got on this call because I went down there to that one, and there was a couple of dudes at that one. But you brought up the point that, like, they're originally from Ohio. We wanted to keep this Illinois-centric. I love it. But, yeah, if we're missing on anybody, now's the time to shout out some guys.
I'm going to hop in on Dominic Jacoby. He's a cool story. From Taft. a 2023 grad. I remember Drew. We had him at the Chicagoland at the Pullman Center, and he was just like an athletic, wiry kid. You're like, yeah, this kid's got a chance. I think he was at Spoon River last year, and then now he's at Harper. And at Spoon River, he hit 309. So he's got on game or in game performance to back up his tools, but supreme athlete, 6'5" runner, and 90 across the infield, natural actions. Like he's an up the middle kid at the next 4-year level. And I know there's been some big schools out there to see him, but he can hit. Like it's an athletic right-handed swing. I saw him leave the yard at the Rock right after Coach Milano told me. He's like, yeah, you should watch out for this Jacoby kid. He's pretty good. And I was like, all right. So next at bat, home run. I was like, yeah, pretty good, not bad. Just an insane athlete, still wiry. Like there's still a lot more to come there. Twitchy. It's just kind of how you draw it up, like with a projectable frame at this age. Still, like he's athletic and strong, but there's still more to come, and it's exciting for pro guys, I'm sure. And then he hopped over on the mound at Harper, and he was ripping off 91-mile-an-hour fastballs with true like backspin carry and a banger breaking ball. So, I mean, he's got a chance with both. I'm not sure what the long-term position will be, but right now it's really interesting. Both ways, and he should just keep doing both as long as he can until someone tells him not to.
What I love about the Dominic Jacoby call out is I think so many people get so caught up in like it's about how good you are in high school. It's about how good I am as a freshman or sophomore in high school. I'm ranked 12th in the state and this and that. And like that's great, but like I think we've talked about in the past, those are just indicators. Numbers don't really matter. It's not about how good you are as a sophomore in high school. And a guy like Dominic Jacoby, like, it's about just getting better every day, every year until your time playing the game is done. And you look at what Jacoby's, like, I had to pull him up as we're talking about him. And just looking at his tools and how they've ticked up since, in high school. In 2023, at the Chicago preseason ID, he ran a 7.16 and he was 84 across the infield with an 89 exit velocity. You go to 2024 at the Harper Junior College Scout Day, he's down from a 7.16 to a 6.71. He's now throwing 90 across the infield. His exit velocity is up to 89. Like, he's it's not up to 89. It's better than that. It's 96. I was looking at his 2023. I'm sorry. So he's a 6.71 runner now. He's 90 across the infield. He's a 96 exit velocity. Those are tools now that are now checking the board. Or I don't know the right way to put that. But he is now checking off so many things that are making him a higher level follow, a higher level prospect, just because now he has those tools. Always a player, but you have to have tools to play at a high level. And that can come at any time. Some guys make their huge jump when they are in high school and they get all their tools when they're a junior. And then it's really, really hard for them to make any more progressions to reach that ceiling. And some guys, it hits them when they're 21, 22. Like maybe Jacoby's not even done. And I know you mentioned that, like that there's still more to come. And I don't think we can highlight that enough with everything that we see. And I think players and parents just to realize like this is an ongoing process. This process never ends to continue to get better and to up your tools. And hopefully you're running your best 60, you're throwing as hard as you've ever thrown, towards the end of your playing career, whenever that is. So that's just another call out, and love to hear Dominic Jacoby like continuing to get better because he was a guy we didn't see a ton of in high school. I didn't have a ton of in-game at-bats on him or anything like that. So to see him kind of flourish and do his thing at Harper and become a big-time follows, that's what it's all about.
Yeah, I don't want to take away if you guys have any more players to talk about, but one thing that I wanted to mention, just having been to a few JUCO scout days this fall, and I know Fields and Hammy, you guys were at quite a few, so maybe you guys have more to add to this, but one thing that I thought was really interesting was how many arms throw 90 miles an hour. Like, I played junior college baseball, and when I played, I remember playing Madison College, and they had two guys I remember in the 90s, but it was very rare that we would see guys throwing consistently low 90s or even touching mid 90s. Like I feel like it's so often now. It looks like all these guys in their bullpens throughout the fall. It was every team was going to have multiple guys throwing 90, which I think is just so impressive.
Yeah, I mean, that's one of the things I'll tell kids now is like it kind of relates to what I was saying earlier with like finding the right fit. Like kids don't know how good JUCO is. Like I encourage them to go watch a game. Go look at our stat page on the fastball velos. Like a couple of years ago, I would use like Parkland or Heartland for examples, and now all these schools, even now, like most arms are around 90 in JUCO, and it's like when you think of these kids think of someone going JUCO, they're like, all right, he's probably not that good, but it's real, it's legit. Like the fastball velo continues to tick up, and I mean even at like the Puma, I mean there was so many good arms. We had to set a baseline of like, all right, 88, get the phone up because you don't know. Unless it's like obviously a really clean mover or a lefty or whatever, like all that. But just to have a baseline, it's like 88 to 90 is like the baseline of like, all right, get the phone out. So it's just crazy nowadays, like how hard kids throw, even at the high school level.
I was going to say it's happening at every level. How hard they throw, how hard they hit. These guys are training for bat speed, they're training for arm speed, they're training for velo, whether that's on the mound or exit velo. And um, man, if we can continue to combine that with the feel for the game, and how to play the game, like that's what it's all about. Like I love that the tools are ticking up. Like that's only going to help the game. It's only going to be good, but let's continue to not forget about playing the game, how to play the game, how to compete. Because if you're mixing in those tools with the compete factor, with the it factor, with the IQ, now you really got something. But yes, I think every level you're going to see continue to tick up. Even college baseball, this to me was like the best talent there's ever been in college baseball. Like watching the College World Series this past summer, it was incredible. And to me, there's a number of factors, but the kids were older than ever in college baseball this year. You're dealing with 23, 24-year-olds still playing college baseball, which wasn't the case in the past. And now the draft is only 20 rounds. So these guys, instead of leaving after, maybe a JUCO guy gets plucked in the 38th round and he signs for, $20,000, instead of signing for $20,000, he's now going to that university and impacting that club and not playing for some rookie ball minor league team. So there's a number of factors, but Division I baseball, better than ever. And I think it's just trickling down to every level.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Josh, Hammett, like anybody else, you guys have any other names you want to mention before we move on to our next segment here? Are you guys good? All good?
Josh,
Sweet. Well,
thanks for
Josh,
hopping on. Appreciate
yeah,
your
thank you,
knowledge of the
Josh.
JUCO landscape. I know you take a lot of pride in that, and I put a ton of effort into it. And I know you're also an integral part of how we, come up with the rankings, because you are seeing so many of these guys. And you spend a lot of your high school time crushing the Wisconsin scene, hanging out up at the Roxy and everything coming through there. But the work you've done on the JUCO landscape has been noticeable. It's been outstanding and a huge asset to us feeling confident when we put out lists, when we put out articles on who we like, because you've seen them. You have seen almost all of these schools, all of these programs, all of these players. So thank you for shedding some wisdom and some insight.
Yeah, thanks for having me on. Love to be on here and talking about junior college players.
Until next time, Josh.
All right, but let's transition over here to our prospect of the week. So last week we didn't do this, but we're going to get back in here, and we've got some uncommitted guys to talk about. So Drew, if I see you got your guy in here at the top. I'll let you kind of talk on him first.
So I was looking at a lot of guys this week for prospects of the week, and I think I'll have a few more down the road here that I'm excited about. But the first guy I wanted to mention was Alec Gunderson. Alec Gunderson, St. Ignatius prospect. First time I ever got a look at Alec Gunderson was at Nazareth High School. They were playing St. Ignatius. I was there to see a left-handed arm for St. Ignatius for a potential future game watch. And I'm watching pregame infield. And Alec Gunderson's a sophomore at the time, not playing, but was was playing shortstop, was the second guy in line, and had my roster that I got from the coach, and I was all in on the actions. I remember walking up to the coach, actually asking, like, "What do you have on this guy?" Because he stood out to me just with the actions, how he looked, like he could handle himself at shortstop, and he was only a sophomore. Um, and most recently, our most recent look at Alec was at the Illinois State games, where I thought he really showed well for himself. After the event, we go through the entire roster. We go through our scout packs and what every guy had on those guys to try to make sure we don't miss a single person. And there were a number of our staff who had, in all of their looks at Alec, were all positive. Which is a huge, factor because they're bouncing around to these different fields, and we have captains on these fields, scouting these fields, making sure they don't miss anything, and him bouncing around to every field, showing well, and then I go back and I look at the video, and there's a lot to like. Like it's an athletic frame. I love the infield action still. I love the way the arm works across the diamond. It's loose, it's clean. It looks like there's a ton of life to it, and then you watch the way he plays the double play ball. And this is just something for me, like, that hopefully players can take something away from this. But when we're doing a showcase and it's you're a middle infielder and you go out there to take the pop times, like take those pop times. We're watching everything. I'm watching the way a middle infielder, digs that ball, digs that short hop, how confident he is, how comfortable, how easy he makes it look when he's, taking that short hop. Turning the double play over if you're that guy on deck that's just turning the double play over. Like how are you presenting your glove? How are you keeping your hands together? How quick is your glove to hand exchange? Like how fluid are you? Can you throw from multiple angles? And like I'm watching this Gunderson video and I'm liking the whole thing, and then I get to his double play ball, and it's one of those where it's ultra confident, it's a drop step. He shows the ability and the feel to almost throw from like his ankle as far as dropping down. And I'm not saying that's how you should handle every ground ball, but to show us that like you have that in there, not every high school guy can do that. They can't make it look as fluid as he did. Like that was a very natural move for him. It speaks volumes. And then you just watch his whole infield round. It's like, it's really clean when it needs to be. The arm plays the way it should. He can make all the plays. He's a 7'4" runner. So like for me, if there's one thing he can do this winter to help his prospect status, it would be to trim that down as much as he can. But he also catches. So, like, he's got versatility. So if that foot speed is an issue for somebody up the middle, like, you can put him behind the plate and he does just as well back there. He's just a guy that's still out there in the class that I think should be getting plenty of attention. So, I love talking about guys, especially guys that give us a lot to talk about. Is so much easier. It's so fun. And Alec, man, I hope, the best for you down the road. I hope some coaches are in there and you're just kind of weighing what your best fit is right now. That's my prospect of the week there, Gav.
Yeah, Def, I see you've got somebody in here that I know we've seen a pretty good amount on. So let's see what you got.
Yeah, my guy is Kareem Patterson out of Latin School of Chicago. And with Kareem, he's been to showcases with us dating all the way back to 2022. And I feel like for a long time he's just kind of always been that physically mature kid. One of those guys that we've mentioned on this podcast earlier, just who really fills out the uniform. When we last saw him, he was 6'1", 190 at the state games, and at the state games he had a really impressive workout day. He ran a 7:01.60, had a 96 mile an hour exit velocity. He was 89 from the outfield with a 70 mile an hour average bat speed, and I feel like that's kind of long been the story with Kareem, just kind of some really loud tools for a physical kid. And I think the most impressive thing is with that 60, he shaved almost a whole second off his 60 time from when he first started coming to our events in 2022. And I think it also just kind of shows that he's probably versatile enough to play both outfield or first base. I think in the summer I saw him playing first base and not outfield, but I just think, he's also a left-handed bat. So when he connects, man, it's loud and the ball's going to travel. So long like Kareem, especially in our showcase settings, hopefully we can maybe get out this spring and see Latin School of Chicago.
Yeah, and then Pete, what do you got on your guys? You got a right-handed arm here.
Thanks, Gav. Yeah, I had Ryan Kelly from Lincoln Way East. He was a state gamer that was on my field. He popped for me. He was an arm I've never seen before. He was an 84 to 87 right-hander. He threw it well too. He threw 2 innings with no hits or runs and struck out 2 with 1 walk. I just really loved the way the fastball came out, and I thought he was a good mover too. Pretty explosive, kind of the shorter, compact arm circle that he can sync up and repeat. And the fastball, I just liked the way it came out. And it paired really well with a curveball that he was getting some ugly swings on. He flashed a changeup too, so that's just another arm that Lincoln Way East has at their disposal, and I didn't even know about him. So, yeah, excited for him, still on the market, so hopefully someone gets on him quick.
Yeah, and then to round it out here, my uncommitted prospect of the week is Sugiyam Park from Champaign Central. He's a 6'6", 217-pound right-handed arm, and actually, last spring I was going to see normal community play Champaign Central at Champaign Central, and I was talking to Coach Staub from Champaign about his team, and he mentioned, oh, he's like, you're gonna have to go check out Sugi at some point this spring or maybe in the summer, and I didn't end up getting to catch him in the spring just with how matchups ended up being that year, but we saw him in the summer uh, multiple times, and he's good. He's a really good uncommitted arm. He's a big 6'6" frame, like I mentioned. Mid 80s fastball that was up to 87, and he pairs it with a slider that's in the mid 70s, and it's got a good break. So I like the frame. I like the way that he moves. It's a stretch only guy. Or kind of a hybridish delivery, I guess. But he moves well, like the arm path, and there's a ton of ease in it as well. There's not a ton of effort. He uses his frame well with that, or on the mound. So Sugi Park is an uncommitted guy to know, and he's a 2025 out of Champaign Central.
I was gonna shout out Coach Staub really quick. He threw his name in there, and he's one of the better guys that does it around all of Illinois at the high school landscape. I haven't seen him in a while, but I've long known Coach Staub down there in Champaign with my time in Danville, and I have a ton of respect for him, and he's been doing it for a very long time. So just really love the shout out there, and that's all I wanted to mention was Coach Staub. He's one of the better guys out there.
No, I just wanted to hop in really quick on Sugi. 6'6", 217. Like, that's projectable. I'm looking at his frame right now. He looks young too. That's another thing. He looks really young. And you're listening to that height and weight, 6'6", 217. Like, when some people think of projection, they think you got to be really skinny, right? And that's not necessarily the case. Like, you can be like more filled out like he is, and still be highly projectable. And I think he is very projectable. Just looking at the way his body is, how young he looks, and how he moves. He moves really well for that size, and he can sync up. I think that's a really good call out for him.
Yeah, I'm excited to see where he ends up and what kind of his future looks like. Cause yeah, I'm a big fan, and so yeah, excited to see where he goes. But kind of transitioning out of our prospect of the week, just something I wanted to mention, kind of for both states in Illinois and Wisconsin. This Friday we have our Black Friday sale, and that's running from Friday through Sunday, through Monday. So Friday through Monday is our Black Friday sale, and it's a great opportunity to get signed up for one of our preseason IDs at a discounted rate. It's going to be 20% off this year, so just be on the lookout for Friday through Monday for our Black Friday sale, and the code is going to be Black Friday 2024, all lowercase. So just keep that in mind. Great opportunity for getting to an event at a lower rate.
Well, Gavin,
Go ahead,
I want to hop in here real quick. To any parents or players listening, there's no easier way to get, on our follow list for the spring than to get to one of our preseason ID events and really stand out there. I full-heartedly believe that, like, here in Illinois and Wisconsin, we run fantastic events. We try to be very personal with the kids, not just, hey, thanks for coming, see you later. So, please come out and see us this winter. We look forward to having, you, if there's a parent, you and your son out to an event this winter.
Yep, absolutely. But kind of finishing up here, I mean, it's Thanksgiving week. Obviously, Thursday is Thanksgiving. It's like one of my favorite holidays, but I think just the biggest thing for me is just remember to spend time with your family and the people that you're close with, and actually spend time with them and enjoy the family time or togetherness that you get with them. It's a great opportunity, and I know at least I don't get it as much as I would like just with life happening, but I think just try and remember to do that the best you can this week and especially Thursday. So
Yeah, I got a shout out too.
Yeah.
for any kids listening, and even if it's not, if it's the parents or the coaches, for the kids, well, I guess anyone, 2-plate minimum, okay? Especially the kids. We got to get eating. We got to keep gaining weight, get stronger, all right? 2-plate minimum, and that goes for anybody.
It's a good call out there. Actually, this is kind of a precursor a little bit to something that we have coming out on Twitter on Thursday morning. But I got to ask you guys before we get into it on Twitter. What are you taking, ham or turkey?
Well, I'll hop in here first because I think everybody on this call knows that I am a notorious picky eater, and I have the taste buds of a 5-year-old. Actually, that's probably disrespectful to 5-year-olds, but I don't really touch vegetables. So with that, I'm a both guy. I'm taking both turkey and ham on my
You
plate.
can't do that. It's not.
Sorry,
I do it.
As you mentioned it though, I think I'm going ham. I'm a ham guy all the way. Turkey's just it's dry. It's not as good, so I'm going ham.
You're not cooking it right then. You gotta.
It's also what the gravy's
All right.
for, Chief.
Yeah. Dude, yeah, I mean, I'm a both guy too, but if I had to pick, I'm probably going turkey because there's just a lot of different ways you can do it. You can smoke it, like my uncle smokes it, fry it. Like, I'm sure you could do that with ham too, but I don't know. I just like the turkey.
I'm with you there. If I had to choose, if my life depended on it, I'd probably also go turkey. So,
All right. Well, I hope you guys have a good Thanksgiving with your families and stuff. So, I know we won't see each other for a while, but hope you guys have a good week and enjoy the break. So, appreciate you
brother.
guys. We'll see you next week.
thanks, Gavin.
See you then.